Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in 2021. I hope you guys are all doing well despite what's going on around the world still. So for today's video, I thought I would do some portrait studies on the Strathmore toned gray paper that I picked up fairly recently and started using for the first time ever. And I did these studies here and I really enjoyed doing them. I really like the results. So I thought it might be fun for you guys to see me doing some more portraits on this paper. So if you would like to draw with me, then grab your sketchbook. It doesn't have to be toned paper like mine, just grab any old sketchbook. I'll throw the reference image up on the video, but if you'd like to get a closer look, that will be linked down below in the description, along with any of the materials that I'll be using in the video today. So for my first portrait drawing, I picked this photo reference. I like it because it has a really clear sense of the lighting. You can clearly see some of the shadow shapes along the right-hand side of the face, and that just makes it really easy for me to plan out the portrait when I can easily see those shadow shapes. And being able to see very distinct shadow shapes, it also makes it easy for me to design the drawing as I go. So yeah, let's just get going here. I'm going to start by just roughly blocking out the outer silhouette of the head so I can get a feel for how big I want to draw it on the page. And then I'll cut into the shape. So the one thing that I noticed about drawing on this toned paper is that it definitely feels a little rougher on the surface to draw. It shows a lot more of the pencil texture. And at first I found it kind of hard to draw on. Like, I don't think this will be my go-to sketchbook for sketching purposes. I think it'll definitely be reserved for doing more highly rendered drawings. So yeah, just trying to roughly figure out where all those elements are and make sure they're proportioned fairly accurately. Though a lot of these things can be adjusted down the line. I don't have to get everything exactly measured out. And I'm going to ignore the hand. So there is the rough outline of the head. And then I'm going to cut in by placing the features. I usually like to start out by finding the placement of the eyes, and then it makes it easier to place roughly where the nose is, because it's usually pretty parallel, and then the mouth. And then I'll start drawing in the features. I usually like to pick a photo reference where I can see these harsh shadows. It makes it a lot easier to place the features and draw things, because it just gives me a good reference point. For example, the eye on this side, because there are less harsh and distinct lines that I can make out, it is harder to place, and therefore I don't like to start with areas that are harder for me to make out and see and place accurately. Instead, I like to place the easier things first that I can see. For example, this line of the hair and this line of the nose. It gives me context that I can work from and to measure out from, so I can better measure where this eye is in relation to everything else around it. And I'm gonna measure the distance between the nose and the upper lip here to place the lips. So I'm blocking out the little highlight on this eye. I don't know if you can see that. And then I'm going to go over and measure out this eye here. And then I'm going to try to draw out some of those shadow shapes that I'm seeing. For example, under the lower lip here and above the chin, I see a shape like this. I'm gonna block that in. And then on the cheek on this side here, I see a shape like that. So the reason why I do this is because it tells me when I'm shading this that this side that is in this shape is going to be a darker value than the shape here, which is in the light. And it just helps me to organize my values when I know kind of where the boundary is between light and shadow. And keeping your values this organized into shapes like this, it really helps sell the sense of lighting in your portrait drawing. And I hope I will be able to show you that in my video today, how powerful these shapes can be and how easy it is to establish a sense of lighting when you can organize your values like this. All right, so my drawing is as blocked in as far as I usually like to go. Yeah, I'm just going to start by filling in some of these shadow shapes, some of these darker values. Because it's a really quick way to bring that drawing out. So yeah, I'm just gonna fill in these darker values here as I've indicated with the use of these shapes. And by the way, you can learn more about how to use shadow shapes in your portrait drawings in my portrait drawing class on Skillshare. So I just looked up at my phone and I realized how zoomed out I was in the frame. So I apologize if this was very small on the screen. I'll try to make it as big as possible in the editing. So yeah, let's just carry on. I don't want to treat this like a, like a teaching kind of video. I just kind of want to relax myself and have fun drawing, because I do feel like that's when I do my best drawings. When I'm just drawing for myself and not worrying about putting it on camera or anything like that. I just want this to be you guys and I exploring using this paper together and learning about it. So yeah, I do find this paper a little bit scratchier to use than just my regular sketchbook paper, which does make drawing a little bit harder for me. I feel like if you like to use pastels or charcoal or anything like that, maybe you will appreciate the rougher texture. But I typically just draw using mechanical pencil most of the time, so I find it a little bit scratchy for my taste. So I just blocked out this little highlight on the lower lip here, but I forgot that I do plan on bringing in a white color pencil to do the highlights with. So I technically didn't really need to do that, but it does help tell me to not go over this area with pencil because I want that area to be a highlight. Shadow under the neck. So actually this whole eye shape here, I'm going to put in a light shadow. Because I have decided that I'm going to make this eye here with this bright highlight the focal point and the eye that's in focus. And putting the other eye in shadow like this to kind of lessen the contrast is a really, I think, a fun way to draw more focus to where there's a higher level of contrast with the bright highlight there. So going into the hair now. So notice how I have merged the hair here, the dark side of the hair here, that's in shadow, with this side of the face that is in shadow. And that is a technique that I love to use to just simplify the drawing, because when everything on this side is in shadow, there's really no real need to try to distinguish that line between the face and the hair. I mean, you can if you want. It's definitely a personal taste kind of thing. But what I learned in drawing and painting is that when you can find opportunities like this to merge shadow shapes together, the shadow shape of the hair and the shadow shape of the face, that can have a really pleasing and simplifying effect on the design of your drawing. And for me, because I like to really highly render certain features out, I always look for opportunities like this, areas like this where I can just simplify and let the eye just travel through without getting muddled in any details, because I want certain areas to have a much higher level of focus, and so to balance that out, I need the other areas to be very simple. So with the hair, I'm going to try to find the shadow shape first. Just deal with the value first before dealing with any of the textural elements. And the hair here is confusing to me, but I'm just going to try to group the values as best as I can make them out and hope that makes sense in the drawing. You know, this whole area up here, like it's a little hard for me to see what's going on. And in that case, I really just try to squint my eyes and try to make out the shape as best as I can see it and as best as I can design it, like so. And then honestly, it always surprises me how that kind of seems to work. I don't know, to me that works for now. So I'm going to move on. Whenever I feel a little bit stuck, I always just like to move on to the next thing, because sometimes when you establish other things around it, it does help you, when you come back to it, it helps you see what you need to do. Because it provides more context. So I'm just kind of cleaning up the silhouette of the hair here. So yeah, just trying to establish the values first, because that really helps make the drawing feel more finished and give structure to the drawing very quickly. Trying to find the anatomy of this ear so it does look like an ear poking out there from the hair and not just like this random white thing. So right now I'm just trying to fine-tune the drawing before I go in and do some of the more finicky kind of rendering. And I apologize if my lighting keeps going in and out. It keeps going from overexposed to underexposed, and I've always had that issue with my camera. I don't know if it's just my certain circumstances with my room and my lighting situation, or if it's because of my phone that I use to record all of my videos. I currently use an iPhone 8 and I think I am due for an upgrade, but I don't know, I don't feel quite ready to pull the trigger on iPhone 12 just yet, because this phone still works great. It's just, you know, the video quality, and the video quality is not as good as I would like it to be, and I do feel like it is definitely something that holds me back a little bit, because it's not something that you can fix. And so it does frustrate me when I take the time to record something for a video or for a class, and then once I go to edit it, there are issues. So yeah, it's something that I have to make a decision on, because I do find that it kind of holds me back a bit. So I'm liking how this is looking so far. I think I'm gonna move on to doing some of the more finicky rendering. For example, I want to establish some of the more gradual shifts of tone in the lighter shape of the face. So the forehead here, I want to show that it kind of caves in a little bit on the bridge here. So I'm just lightly going in with my pencil there, and then show a little bit of a transition here, going darker on this side. And when I am applying these more subtle transitions in value, I am making sure that any value I put in the light area is lighter than the values that are in the shadows, because that's the only way that your eyes will read that this is still in the light and this is in shadow. Otherwise, the lighting statement will fall apart. So I'll show you another example. I want to indicate the subtle like contours of the nose here, the ball of the nose and the nostril. But because this is in the light area, I have to make sure that the value can't be as dark as the value that is in the shadow side. So I have to be just, you know, gentle about it. And here's a highlight here on the nose that I definitely want to come back to with my color pencil. I will just lightly block that out. I don't really want a like distinct outline around it, but I want to know, I want to make sure I don't go over it. So there, just rounding out the form of the nose there a little bit, and then the nostril as well. I think this year I definitely want to try to make more Skillshare classes. I have a few ideas on what I want to do, one of which is just like a how to render certain features of the face, for example the nose, the eyes, and the lips, because I feel like having a very like concentrated class on those separate features will be really helpful to people. What do you guys think? Which feature should I start with first? I'm kind of tempted to start with the nose first because I really like rendering the nose and I think it really provides a lot of structure to the face. So yeah, let me know if that's something that you might be interested in. So now I'm going to render this little area here under the eye, and then I'm going to render a little corner of the mouth there. I like indicating these subtleties in the face. I feel like it adds so much more life to the portrait, and also it strengthens the likeness when you can make out the little subtle differences in the features. I think what I had before was good enough, but I really, for me, the joy in drawing is indicating those just subtle differences in the skin there. But that has to be balanced out with also leaving out things that you notice as well. Like I really love showing people like, oh, look at the little thing that I noticed and that I put in the drawing so you can notice too. I love doing that, and I'm sure for a lot of people that's a lot of the joy of drawing for them as well. But that has to be balanced with also leaving a lot of things out that you notice, so that not everything is just vying for our attention. and our attention is just concentrated to a select few areas of the drawing. So at this point, I think I'm going to finally address the hair that I've been kind of neglecting. And for this, I'm going to bring in my blending stick or stump, whichever term you like to use, because the hair is an overall darker value than the skin. Even though I know that this part of the hair is lighter, overall it has to read like a darker local value than the skin. So I'm just going to take the blending stump. Actually, I'm going to bring in this bigger one here. I'm going to take this and just drag it along here to just establish a even darker tone in the light part of the hair. And I'm going to try to maintain this relationship here that I established. So keeping this darker area still darker, but at the same time darkening the overall value up here. And this is when I think a blending stump comes in real handy. So right now, I'm not worrying about the little bits of highlights that I see on the hair, because that can be brought in later with my color pencil. And I think trying to draw around it isn't the way to go, because the highlights on the hair are not nearly as light as the highlights on the skin, because the skin is a much lighter value overall. But you do have to exercise some restraint with one of these things. I feel like it's very easy to get carried away and start to want to like soften everything. I feel like the hair got a little bit too mushy up at the top here. So I'm going to now take my kneadable eraser and I'm going to try to lift some of the value out. I feel like up here got a little bit too dark for me. I want like certain areas to be, I don't know, it just looks a little bit too dark overall. And I want to concentrate the darker values a little bit more like mindfully. So I'm just gonna dab some of this out. Yeah, I think I want to concentrate that darker value along this area here. And I'm actually going to lift some of this here, because I feel like this patch of hair doesn't need to be quite so dark. Having this as the same value as this, it has a flattening effect, and I don't want that whole piece to flatten itself on the drawing. I want this to be a separate piece from the back part of the hair there. So a little splotchy, but I think I like that more than what I had earlier in terms of the value distribution. There, and now I'm just going to bring out a little bit of the hair texture. Just a little bit that I can see. I'm not going to try to define everything. Not that I can really even make out everything that's going on in here, but a little bit goes a long way with hair. Yeah, even that seems a little bit too defined for my taste, so Hair is tricky. It's tricky to strike the right balance between defined enough so that it looks like hair, but not so defined that it's taking away from the face. I'm going to try to bring this back out even more. And now I think we're nearing the end here. So I'm just going around the drawing and just kind of cleaning up some of the edges. I make sure the features are looking how I would like them to look. Make sure they are coming through okay. Making sure the eye direction is good and the expression with the mouth is good or good enough. And I'm actually going to put this whole side of the face in the light side here in shadow. Oh, not in shadow, but just darken it slightly so that there's a subtle gradient going to dark towards this side. And what that does is it helps model the form better and reduces the contrast here a little bit because it was a little bit too strong, I would say. And I'm going to very lightly show a little cheek definition here. I already see that it is a little bit too strong, so I'm going to pull it back just a little bit in a second. But I'm being very, very, very gentle here because I don't want to create too many or too dark of a value. And then I'm going to take my kneadable eraser and going to lift that up a bit. Actually, I lifted it up a little bit too much, so I'm gonna go back now. So yeah, always reevaluate your values. Reevaluate your values, that sounds weird. And I think just as I did with the face here, I'm going to slowly gradate here as well on the neck so that their neck reads more like a cylinder. There. All right, let's see what else needs to be done. The blending stick is great for areas that have a really soft edge, for example, along the hairline. It just creates a nice soft edge so it doesn't look like too harsh of a transition there. So now comes the really fun part, which is bringing in the highlights with this white color pencil. I am going to be using the Prismacolor Verithin pencil. It's just a white color pencil that I've had for a while that I never use because it's actually a really hard lead. I believe this whole Verithin line is a harder leaded color pencil, and I realized that I don't like that. So, but I use this for the other portrait drawings above, and I thought it worked out really well. So that's what I'll be using today, but I'm sure you can use any old white colored pencil or really any other lighter colored pencil of any kind. So I'm just gonna bring this in, and first I'll go in with the nose highlight here. It is, oh yeah, oh that's quite bright. Maybe that's a little bit too bright. No, I'm not gonna erase it, I'm just gonna leave it, but I'm going to erase this little area here because I want to bring in a little highlight in the corner of the eye there because I think that would look really fun. If anyone likes to wear makeup, you know how satisfying it is to bring some attention to this corner of the eye here. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but hey, we're just pushing the boundaries of what we can do on this paper. So, you know, if we go a little bit too far with this, then I think that's fine. Actually, this one, this highlight there got a little bit smudgy because it was too tight of an area. So I'm just gonna try to put some really dark value around it to make that pop a bit more. Yeah, got a little bit too smudgy there. Actually, I'm going to erase some of these lines that I threw in during the block and stage. Where else could we put this? Oh, I guess we can put it on along the lip here. So the white pencil doesn't really work over top of pencil, like the graphite pencil. So I think maybe I will keep that in mind for next time. I think it works best on just like plain virgin paper. Otherwise it gets a little bit smudgy with the pencil around it. Oh well. And when it does get smudgy, I think it makes it a little bit harder to erase as well. But again, we're just kind of exploring here. So whatever happens, we'll just let it happen. We won't panic, or I won't panic. I just want to see how far I can go with this pencil. Because that's really satisfying. With just white paper, you know, you can't really do this unless you tone like every inch of the paper and you erase out the highlights, which I don't really like to do because I find that more challenging. So yeah, I feel like this was a real treat to be able to actually work on the highlights like this. I rarely get to do this, I feel like. So with these more subtler highlights, I'm not pressing very hard with the white pencil because I don't want it to be too jarring. I just want just a light indication. I mean, I might be already going a little bit too far here. Yeah, probably. Let's see if I can... oh well, I'll leave it there. But yeah, I feel like doing this also helps separate the skin from the hair as well, because the hair is not nearly as light as the skin. I'm now thinking maybe instead of coming in with the color pencil at the end, maybe I should work it in more in between, because I am not liking how it layers with the pencil, because it kind of muddies the white. So yeah, maybe if I bring it in before I lay down the pencil, then it will, if I go over top of it with the pencil, maybe it'll be a little bit more seamless. I'm not sure. I will have to find that out. Well, any last minute final adjustments before we call this finished? Can you guys hear my stomach? I am getting hungry. Okay, I think it's lunchtime for me soon. I'm lifting up some of the darker valley on this side because I don't want it to be quite as dark as this part of the hair here. Otherwise it will flatten these two sides of the face out, and I don't want that because I'm trying to create a lot of movement between the two sides here. And you might think, oh, isn't this side in shadow and therefore it should be dark? In a way, yes, but if you can find a way to still keep the shadow separate from the light by grouping the values, you can get away with doing more just a creative approach like this, where you lighten up the shadow side. Yeah, I think for me it's like it's a fun little way to add some interest to the piece. Instead of having all this area equally as dark as that area there. I'm always trying to inject interest in any way that I can. So I think that might be it, folks. I think that might be it. Of course, I cannot stop. I have to keep going. So again, here, see how I am diminishing the edge there because I don't think it's necessary actually to kind of close all this area of the hair in, because I have this hard edge of the ear here. I don't really want another hard edge coming out there because I think that kind of flattens things out. So I'm just going to leave it there and leave this more ambiguous. I kind of like having this a lost edge. It kind of echoes this part of the hair here, and it really now draws the attention to this kind of vector here that's been created by the hair, and I like that. Yeah. So I think we are done with our little drawing here. I hope you enjoyed seeing this drawing come together. I hope you took something away from my portrait drawing process. I always leave links to my Skillshare portrait drawing classes down below in the description, so definitely check those out if you'd like to learn a little bit more about my specific process. So yeah, what do you guys think of this toned gray paper for drawing portraits on? I really like it for portraits, and I am shocked. Well, not shocked. I am typically a little bit close-minded when it comes to trying new materials, but I just can't believe I have never tried it before. I always thought it was maybe just for using charcoal on, but no, mechanical pencil works great with it as well. And it's really fun trying to render out the features because you have a fuller range of values that you can work with. So if you've also never used tone paper before, then I highly recommend checking it out. It was a lot of fun. So with that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!